everyone. So yeah, I hope you guys are all doing great. I'm very excited to be here and get going with this. Like I said, my name is Jared. I can talk real loud. I don't need it. Oh, now it's working. Yeah, that's good. Okay, sorry about that.
It's a new building.
Like Nick said, my name is Jared Tiefenthaler, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Seam Readers. The goal of my presentation today is kind of to basically show you guys where my company's technology started and how it's innovated and progressed to today. And so, with that being said, I'd also like to share, some things I learned and experiences that were taught to me while launching a free mobile app on both iOS and Android. And so, to get started, the question is, what is Seam Readers? So Seam Readers is a baseball and softball technology company that teaches, tests, and trains users on the many different faces a baseball or softball pitch can have. You can see some faces up there. Some pitches in baseball and softball, they have a signature look to them based on how they rotate. And this can be very important to batters because basically it can tell you where the pitch is moving and can really result in either a home run or strike three. And so, to go back to the beginning, as Nick mentioned, I am a BH alum. Go Yellow Jackets, to all you School Lines people here. I was in my senior year of college. Is this one there? It is. So I was in my senior year of college at Blackfoot State University, and in my degree in entrepreneurship, for one of the last classes, we actually had to start business. And so, going to the first day of class and leaving it, I really didn't have a good business idea in my head. And so I reached out to my father, Dennis, and basically was like, Dad, for this class, I got to start a business, but I don't have any ideas, do you have it? And he said, Jared, why don't you try the Seam Readers idea? And so growing up my whole life, I knew all about Seam Readers, okay? My dad tried to do this business idea where he basically taught this skill, seam reading, to the masses. And he took it pretty far. The technology was not there in 2002, okay? So I had to do some research. So the first thing I looked into was obviously, is the technology there? Could we teach this skill to the masses? And so after doing a little bit of research, I kind of figured out that we could either film what we needed to film with a camera, or we could animate something if we had to. But the biggest thing I looked into and learned was that there was a huge need for this. There was nobody out there teaching this skill and doing it in the way we wanted to do it. The only way you could practice seam reading was by doing it in person. And so, with that being said, I said, Dad, let's go for it, okay? So this kind of takes you to where we started. The first idea I had was to do virtual reality. And so we were going to have a virtual reality training program with real pitchers, real baseballs, real softballs. And you can see up in the photo, we have a VR camera sitting on a trash can, and I'm actually ducking behind said trash can, while my buddy on the right side of the screen was throwing pitches I shouldn't say at the trash can, but right above the trash can, trying to avoid the camera. You can see my hands there with my iPhone trying to film that. And so we learned something real quick with these 360 and VR cameras, and that was that they couldn't see the ball very well at all. Okay, they could see a white blur, but they couldn't capture the rotation and the seams like we needed them to. So we kind of scrapped that idea, and the main focus was then moving into just a mobile app. Okay, and so we said, let's take the same idea, let's use real pitchers, real baseballs and softballs, but let's get a more high-tech camera to do this. And so the first video I'll show you is our first prototype that I made. And I actually used a power drill to drill these baseballs up. And then the second video is a lot prettier version of that same one done by a photography professor at Blackfoot State University. So we had about 6 baseball pitches and 6 softball pitches, all drilled up. And it basically served as a great learning tool. We had all these different pitches. People could basically just sit there and look to see how they rotated. But we were still missing a key element to our app, which was the actual pitchers throwing the ball at the camera, and the ball's actually moving from small to big. And so we wanted to achieve that. So we got with the photography professor. We left the dinky little 360 cameras behind, and we had this awesome $50,000 camera setup to then film with. And luckily, the professor was also a college pitcher. So it kind of worked out nicely. So we set his really nice camera up above a pitching net, and then we're throwing basically below the camera trying to capture these pitches. 20 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, we were throwing them. And we kind of ran into the same problem. Even with this really awesome camera, we couldn't, it couldn't see the seams like we wanted it to. It could see the ball, it was kind of like a blur, but you couldn't really see the rotations, the educational material with these cameras. You could if you slowed it down in really slow motion, but that didn't really help train the users like we wanted it to. So basically, after these tests and trials, I knew that we were going to have to do an animation if I wanted to create this going forward. And so I left that class basically with an awesome business plan and some steps that I knew I had to do when I graduated if I wanted to continue doing this. There was still one more thing I had to do for the year, and that was actually the 2018 School of Mines Business Plan Competition. And so, leading up to this, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do the competition. Wasn't sure if this was something I really wanted to do after college or not. And so, after talking with my professor a little bit, he convinced me, and so I decided to do it. And, as some of you might know, maybe not, but any person that pitches in the School of Mines Business Plan Competition gets given a mentor. And so, I was given a mentor who is still a mentor to me today, as well as a friend. But I found out that he was a part of the Black Hills Angel Squad. And so I pitched in the competition. I didn't win, probably because I went to PH, but I learned a lot, and I basically, after I was done, my mentor and a few other people came up to me and they said, Jared, we definitely see a need for this. You have a great idea, go for it with it, try to make it happen. And so I graduated December of 2018. I moved back home to Arizona, where I'm from, and basically started right when I got back. So this is 2019. Like I said, I knew there were some things that my dad and I were going to have to get done to start this app building process. And the first was to raise some money. And so for the first few months of 2019, we went around to a bunch of friends and family and finally met with a gentleman named Danny Parker. And Danny was, and still is, a huge baseball fan, advocate. He was a player, and biggest of all, he did our skill. He was a seam reader when he played. And so he totally knew what we were talking about and what we wanted to do. And so Danny ended up giving us $10,000, which we then turned into our second prototype. Well, that ball's supposed to be spinning there, but it's the same animation from the previous screen. And then on the right, you can see a little demo of our first app, basically. And so we had these animations done, we had a little prototype, and the prototype was supposed to serve as almost like an evidence manual. This was not our final product. We wanted to use this to then go out to more friends and family and try to raise some more money for the product that we wanted. Something else that came out of that $10,000 that we weren't really anticipating was filing a provisional patent. And so our provisional patent is basically made up of two legs, if you will. The first leg is our animations, which takes a special skill set, a special profession to create the animations. And then using a coder or an app developer, we create the small to big aspect, which is all based on real baseball analytics. And so with those two key elements and two specific professions, that's kind of what makes up our patent. And so we filed the official patent back in January. We're still waiting to hear if we get it or not. But a lot came out of that $10,000. And so basically, after we had this, oh, there you go. After we had this, the goal was to now raise some more money. We had this prototype, we had a provisional patent. So we went around for the rest of 2019 to some more friends and family and basically raised another $60,000. And with that, we also found our developer, okay? We hired a Unity developer. Unity is a game engine. When you develop on Unity, it develops for basically iOS and for Android. So we had to steal find him. His name's Greg. He's a business partner of ours now. But so we basically, we had some money, we had a developer, and for the first few months of 2020 now, we actually developed out our final product. And so this is Seam Reader. So you can actually see the ball move from small to big here, and then it's the user's job to answer what pitch they just saw. This is all based on Little League analytics, if you can see it up there. The photo on the right is like the little learn mode. It's kind of like that first prototype I made. The balls just sit there and spin. And so we have a few different game modes within our app, and we launched it. We launched it in about April of 2020, and in those first 4 months of us launching it, we had some good success, if you will. So we had about 25,000 downloads in the first 4 months, 25,000 users. We had an article featured in Baseball America. It's the largest baseball publication, website, and magazine in the country. We were number 5 on the iOS App Store in the category of sports. You can see some big names below us, like NFL and the NBA app, and above us, ESPN was number 3. And then we had a superstar user, if you will, the 8th overall pick in 2018 MLB draft, Josh Young, was a big user of our app. Him and the whole Texas Rangers organization were competing with it all summer long, basically, and I got to know Josh really well. And so we had a lot of really good success. Our app totally, met our expectations. We had what you call a freemium app, meaning it's free, but it runs off, it makes money off ad revenue as well as in-app purchases. And so it had everything we wanted, but we weren't really seeing the return on investment that we had hoped, okay? And so we took a step back after the initial launch, and we said, we had all these downloads, but we're not seeing the money we want to see. So what are some of the metrics that we need to look at? Because you can Google, how a free app makes money, how much money a free app makes, and it's a spectrum. It's a humongous, difference between X app and Y app. And so we had to look at our own data and kind of learn the key points for us. And so we came up with this graphic, basically. So the most important metric that I'll say for any free app out there is daily active users, okay? Daily active users are your lifeblood. And so with this, you can see that if you had 1,000 daily active users for 1 year, your app would make $10,000. Add a 0 to it, 10,000 daily users for a whole year, your app would make $100,000, and of course, if you had 100,000 daily users, your app would make $1 million for that year. And so this was a pretty standard model for us. It was custom to us. And so naturally, the next question might be, how does one get to these daily active users? How do you get them, and how do you keep them and maintain them? How does Call of Duty Warzone, one of the biggest free games in the world, how do they do it? How does Fortnite do it? How do any of the free games that you guys all have on your phone, how do they do this? How do they keep players engaged? Well, they do it with something that I call constant content. Okay, these are things like new game modes that they'll add in, new season passes, new characters to buy, new weapons, or whatever it is. It's content that comes into the game frequently. And so we tried our hand at it. As you can see the bottom tier there, we tried our hand at it. We had a season pass that came out. We had some characters that came out that you could unlock. We had a season pass, which is basically just a purchase item for a chance to unlock things. And so we had all this stuff, and this was after our initial launch. We launched this, and it did okay for us. It did some things, but basically the biggest thing I learned was that to make this happen, to have constant content, to generate a lot of revenue, you have to have what I call the business holy trinity. You have to have capital, you have to have time, and you have to have people. Okay, we had time, but unfortunately we didn't have the money or the team to really make this happen consistently. So we were kind of behind the 8 ball. So we kind of, after thinking about it again, we knew we had something though, okay? We had a great testimonial evidence manual. We had players all over the world, parents reaching out to us saying, my kid hit a home run and he said it was a 2-seamer. And he knew it was because of your app. We had a customer acquisition cost of around 5 cents. And we knew we had something, we just thought we needed a better mechanism to deliver our technology. And so with that being said, we knew that we were probably going to have to raise some more money again. And so we wanted to come up with an idea that basically was built off everything we learned from the first time around. And so we wanted to create a product that had a year's worth of content already built into it. We weren't going to be behind the 8 ball this time. We were going to have a year's worth of content, no more content updates already built into it. And we were going to basically scrap the free game. We really tried to make the last app a fun game that would be addicting to these guys. That's something, for a free game to make money, it's almost got to be addictive. So we decided to scrap that whole idea and just focus on the training element. So we came up with a subscription model product called Seam Reader Pro. And this is actually one of the first renderings of that product. It was going to have real pictures or animated pictures, a bunch of different pitches, different training modes, things like that. And biggest of all, it was not going to be free. It is going to be a subscription model monthly product. So we had this new idea, and we had the proof of concept backing us. So I reached back out to my connections at the Black Hills Angels Fund and basically asked, and begged for a chance to pitch to them. No pun intended, we won't pitch. But we did pitch to them, and that was about a year ago today. I was right before the previous Innovation Expo of 2020. My father and I pitched to the Black Hills Angels Fund, and after that, we then sat in a different auditorium, 6 feet away from everybody, and basically prayed that these angels would take a shot at us. And so after a few months of due diligence by the angels, they said yes, and my family and I, we moved back here. We live in Spearfish now. I just uncovered my driveway in snow. But we live in Spearfish and are so happy to be here, and I'm happy to share with you guys where we are now. So we have an app coming soon. It's currently in development. It is Seam Reader Pro. Our previous app only had about 6 baseball and 6 softball pitches. So this app coming out is going to have around 150 total different pitches. We're going to have over 30 different animated pitchers, all with different arm angles. If you know baseball, you know that a pitcher can throw from here all the way to here. Any of these arm angles a pitcher can throw from. And so this video will actually show 4 different arm angles. It's all the same pitch. But you can see the different arm angle and maybe how that affects the ball if you guys can catch that. And then the last one is from down low. And so this is where we are now. We plan on launching this summer of 2022. Things are great for our team. We're so blessed to be able to continue doing this and basically live the business dream here in the Black Hills. And so that kind of wraps up my presentation. But there's something I wanted to leave you guys with, especially the young aspiring entrepreneurs. Something that's carried me through this whole time. I was not a developer. I barely made it through entrepreneurship school, you could say. And so from the beginning, I never really knew what the next step was going to be. But I always knew it'd be possible. I always look at guys, like Jeff Bezos and all of these huge CEOs out there. And something that's always stuck true in my mind is, if they can do it, why can't I? If they can go out and raise money, why couldn't I? Why couldn't I be that 7%, like Gino Weekman said? Because I always knew I was going to have to raise some money. And so what I've dialed it down to is basically the belief you have in your idea, the belief you have in yourself. That stuff will easily carry you through the good times, but it's that belief and that desire when it gets unknown and those dark times, it has to be strong, because that's the only thing that will really carry you guys through the unknowns. And so with that, I just want to say thank you to the angels that are here who took a shot at me. Thank you all for having me. It was fun. Sorry the microphone didn't work out. Hopefully you all heard me okay. And I'm very humbled to be here, so thank you guys.